So our second and final part is going to begin with Faraz Shibli, speaking on Outer Mongolia, the last place on Earth.
I gazed down in horror at the big brown monster between my legs, hairy, spitting, and angry. My hips jolted forward, and I dropped down to the ground as my first ride on a Bactrian camel came to an end. But it took 5 minutes and 4 attempts for me to get off this creature's back, because every time it dropped down to the ground and I raised my leg to get off it, it jumped right back up, my crotch bearing the brunt of its force. No, my first encounter with this beast was not a pleasant one, but it was the beginning of an adventure, one in which 11 other travelers and I attempted to cross the Mongolian Gobi Desert on foot with 12 of these animals for company. Our aim was to walk 1,600 kilometers from the southwest to the southeast of Mongolia from May to July last year, a journey that would bring us most of the way across the world's most sparsely populated country and all the way across Asia's largest desert. Our team was made up of 12 people from 10 different countries, from students to ex-soldiers, who'd all met online. Only a handful of us had met in person before, so it was to be as much a social experiment as a desert expedition. To support us, we had a crew of 4 locals, including a translator and a cook, who would meet us along the route in a rickety Russian van. And then, of course, there were our Bactrian camels. And even they were found online. Our leader viewed them via webcam, inspecting their humps, their feet, and their teeth, and arranged to have them fattened up for months before we arrived. Now, during the trek itself, they would carry our food, our water, and some of our equipment. And in return for this, they would routinely spit at, vomit on, and kick us, as well as accumulate blood-sucking ticks the size of golf balls on their genitals that we had to remove by hand. But they weren't all bad. These 2-humped, long-haired animals which shed their hair in the summer months are simply built for desert travel. Why? Because they can walk for up to 10 days without water and carry up to 250 kilograms. Now, an ability to walk without water is like a godsend in the Gobi. Spanning southern Mongolia and northern China, it's a rain-shadow desert, which means that the Himalayas to the south block rain-carrying clouds from reaching it. And both its dryness and its enormity were clear from when we first arrived. For miles in every direction stretched a yellow grass carpet, thirsty, threadbare, and flat. In the far distance to the north and the south stood row upon row of dark, jagged mountains, like the plates of huge, sleeping dinosaurs' backs. But on the vast, arid plain, littered with tiny clumps of vegetation, we could look up and around without obstruction to an awesome ocean of deep blue sky. Never before on land had I seen so much uninterrupted space. Herds of semi-wild horses galloped past us, steppe eagles soared above our heads, and wolves howled in the hills as we slept. Despite its extreme remoteness, this place was full of life. Even people, though few and far between, appeared as if from nowhere. Dainty women on tiny horses, windburnt boys on rusty motorbikes, and families moving to pastures new. Yes, Mongolians are traditionally travelers too, nomads who move from place to place. They live lives of few possessions in small, wooden, collapsible structures called gears that can be put up and taken down fast. Inside, there are examples of strict tradition, where everything and everyone has a place. The entrance faces south, the man's side is the west, the woman's is the east, and in the center sits the stove. The north is a place of honor where there's even a statue of Buddha. But despite being a Buddhist country, it has an ancient history of shamanism and folk religion that still shapes people's lives, and even their children's haircuts. Superstition dictates that evil spirits are gender-specific, targeting either boys or girls. So to confuse them, children's hair is grown long, first being cut between the ages of 3 and 6. Some children are even given names like Nergui, meaning no name, to confuse the spirits further. Even as we walked, we saw examples of superstition. At crossroads and mountain passes, we came across piles of rocks called uvus. Now, these are the scenes of sacred ceremonies where people pay homage to the forces of nature. Travelers circle them three times clockwise for safety on a journey. And as we dropped deeper into the Gobi, we'd need all the help that we could get. Grass turned to gravel, gravel turned to sand, and the mountains slowly disappeared. Skeletons of camels and horses littered the ground beneath our feet. For water, we zigzagged from well to well, many of which were simply dry. And as temperatures reached 45 degrees Celsius at times, angry rashes emerged on body parts where they had absolutely no business. My ingenious weight-saving plan to rotate furiously between just 2 pairs of socks and underwear had hideously backfired. And as things had heated up, even loading our camels became more of a chore, and some just simply refused to carry. One even stampeded through our campsite, dropping precious food and water. Now, at that time, I'd survived on a daily diet of mutton, so constipation levels were critical. But nature's laxative came in the form of an 800-kilogram beast charging at me head-on and narrowly missing. Sadly, some of my unfortunate teammates were kicked by camels, and that was the end of their trek. The toll of walking just under a marathon a day also began to show, and as team members were evacuated one by one, our numbers slowly dwindled. But our spirits were once again lifted by the people that we met on the road. Open doors, milky tea, and wrinkled eyes framed by honest smiles punctuated their legendary hospitality, an absolute necessity in a country where roads are few, long-distance travel is tough, and the traditional nomadic way of life constantly demands it. It's even said that on a journey, one nomad can enter another's empty gear and help himself to food, drink, and shelter. So what's known as burglary in Britain, in Mongolia, is hospitality. But as with any country, it's not without its problems. Unemployment and alcoholism sometimes lurk behind the scenes. Twice, when camping near backwater towns, we ran into some serious trouble. Drunken lorry drivers with rifles demanded the princely sum of $5 per head to let us pass safely. And a huge drunken wrestler tried to attack me and a teammate for not buying him beer. Sadly, no photos of that. Thankfully, next time we ran into some wrestlers was under far less violent circumstances. Our trip coincided with an annual sporting festival called Nadam, which takes place in most towns in July. Steeped in ceremony, it involves competing in the 3 so-called manly sports: horse riding, archery, and perhaps the manliest of them all, wrestling in tiny pants. But as we reached the home straight, there was little time for breaks. The worst of the weather hit us, including sandstorms and violent twisters that beat our tents, battered our clothes, and covered everything we ate in sand. But finally, after 2 months of trekking, 4 of us had made it, having walked the entire distance. We bade farewell to our camels before selling them to a local herder. We also said our own goodbyes as my teammates all went home, happy to have raised $10,000 for a Mongolian children's charity called EDU Relief. I stayed in Mongolia for 1 more month, buying a ticket on the Trans-Siberian Railway. As I trundled north through the central steppes, men on horseback in full traditional dress galloped alongside the carriage. I spent some time in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia's modern capital. There, more than anywhere else, the nation's fixation with one man is clear. Genghis Khan's face was everywhere I looked, like an ancient Justin Bieber. Streets, restaurants, and even bottles of vodka were named after the founder of the Mongol Empire. Now, leaving the city, I took a van further north until I arrived in a picturesque village, where I borrowed a tiny, semi-wild horse and rode further north still. And by the shore of Lake Khuvsgul, near the northern border with Russia, the journey had come to an end. In the West, when speaking about a far-flung place, we often say it might as well be Outer Mongolia. Surely, then, as travelers and curious minds, the fact that it strikes us as the last place on Earth is a reason we all should plan to visit. Thank you.
think there's been humour added since we heard it at the auditions. Fantastic. I think the audience appreciated it.
Any questions?
Any questions?